Hello everyone and welcome back to part 5 of the Dialog System series. I already mentioned a small mistake from the end of part 4 in the video description and the pinned comment. I forgot to show that I moved the open widget call to a different location. So this is the correct location for this call, because we want the widget to be visible after the NPC greeting, not immediately when entering the dialogue. Next, let's continue from the last action we did in part 4. Inside the InDialog function, I told you that we only need to check if the widget is valid to prevent up and down inputs during audio and animation playback. But I found out that after the widget is created once, it is still valid even after being removed from the parent. So we also need to check if the widget is in the viewport. First, we check if the widget is valid. Then add a branch. If it is true, we can check if the widget is in viewport. To connect this node correctly, right-click and select Show Exec Pins. Connect the true pin of the branch to the input and both outputs to the return node. And there's one more thing we need to fix. When we exit the dialog and the NPC is rotated differently than 000, the control rotation ends up in the wrong place, because it uses absolute values rather than values relative to the player. We can quickly fix this. Get the player character and add a getActor rotation node. Split the return value pin, then subtract 10 from the pitch and 20 from the yaw, and connect these two values to the control rotation node. Now the camera always blends back correctly. Let's prepare our data table with the necessary variables for the conversation. Open the NPC structure to add them. First, we need question audio of the type sound cue for the player character. Make this and all following variables arrays. Next, we need reaction audio for the NPC, also of the type sound cue. Then we need player face index, player body index, NPC face index, and NPC body index as integer arrays to set the animations that belong to the sound cues. Add another integer variable and name it next state. We will use this to specify if a single question leads to a completely new block of questions. We can also check the state variable to see if the player wants to leave the dialogue. The last variable for now is a boolean. Name it only once. This will mark questions that can only be used once and will be disabled after they are selected. Save and open the data table to set all these variables. Add a new table row and name it State 1. Now select the default lines row, right-click on Active Lines and hit Copy. Then select the State 1 row, right-click on Active Lines and hit Paste. Add 4 new elements to the question audio variable and fill in all the audio cues that belong to our default text lines. Use the same order as the text lines. Repeat the same steps for the NPC reaction audio variable. Before we set the face index variables, we first need to add the animations to the player's face ABP. Open it and drag in a face idle and all 4 audio-related animations. Because both characters are metahumans and share the same base skeleton, I can simply use the idle loop from the NPC for the player as well. Add a blend poses by integer node. Right-click inside the node and add a couple of pins, so you can connect all animations to the blend node. Set the blend times to 0.2. Then enable loop for the idle animation. Select the blend node and set child update mode to reset child on activate. Create a new integer variable called animFaceIndex, drag it into the graph and connect it to the active child pin. Then connect the blend node to the output pose, compile and save. Now we can set the player face index variables to the corresponding blend pose slots of the animations. In this case, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We also need to add the NPC reaction face animations in the exact same way to the NPC face ABP. Here we already have the idle and the greeting animations set up, so we only need to bring in the missing ones. Add enough pins to the blend node to connect all of them and set the blend times to 0.2. Compile, save and switch back to the data table. Then set the NPC face index variables to the corresponding blend slots we used, 2, 3, 4 and 5. In this part, I'll set all NPC body animations to the Mixamo idle we assigned in the previous part of the series. If you want to use individual body animations for each text line, simply add them to the NPC body ABP and set the slot numbers here in the NPC body index, just like we did for the face animations. How to set up body animations for the player character I will show you in the next part of the tutorial, because we need to go inside to the locomotion state machine. For now, we simply ignore the player body index variables. For next state, we only use state 1 for today. We only set the last one to state 9. State 9 then represents the exit of the dialogue after playing "I have to leave now." The only once variable will also be covered in the next part, so we can ignore it for now. To make our player character speak, we have to activate the interface in its blueprint. Go to Class Settings and under Interfaces, click Add. Then search for our BPI Dialog System interface. On the left side, go to the Interface Functions. Right-click on Set Anim Index and select Implement Event. Drag in the face component and add a Get Anim Instance node. Drag out and cast to the player's face ABP. Connect the exec pins, then drag out from here and set the anim face index variable from the animation blueprint. Connect the exec pins and plug in the face index from our interface. Since we handle audio inside the NPC blueprint, compile and save here. Open the interface. Right-click on the Play Dialog Audio function and select Copy. Then right-click in the interface and choose Paste function. Name it Play Player Audio. Compile and switch back to the NPC blueprint. Add a second audio component and name it Player Audio. Go to the interface functions and implement the newly created Play Player Audio function. Drag in the Player Audio component, add a Set Sound node, connect the pins and finally add a Play node using Player Audio as the target. Now open the Dialog System blueprint. After the NPC greeting, we end up here, switching to the player camera. But before that, we want to check if the dialog state is 9, which means the dialog should end here. Create a new integer variable and name it actual state. Compile and set its default value to 1. Drag it into the graph and add an equal node. Compare it with 9 and add a branch. Connect the end audio event to the branch. If it is true, we want to exit the dialog. So we can delete our keyboard cue input logic and replace it with a custom event named exit dialog. Then call this event if the actual state is 9. If the condition is false, switch the camera. To make this easier to use multiple times, let's quickly create a function that automatically switches between the cameras. Copy the whole switch logic from here. Create a new function called AutoCameraSwitch and paste the nodes inside. First, check if the NPC camera is active and add a branch. If it is true, set the NPC camera to off and the player camera to on. If it is false, set the NPC camera to on and the player camera to off. Connect both to the blend node, then compile and save. Now we can delete these nodes from here and simply call auto camera switch if the condition is false. After that, the widget should be opened. So move the widget nodes again and connect them right here. Next, create a new custom event and name it Player Talk. To finally select a line for the dialog, we need another input besides up and down that calls this event. Create a new keyboard input. I choose Enter. Check if we are in the dialog, add a branch, and if the condition is true, call the Player Talk event. First, we need our data table pins. We already created a function for that. Right-click on Get Greetings Pins and duplicate it. Name it Get Question Pins. Add an input to the function. Name it Index and set its type to integer. Change the row name to State1 and delete all existing outputs from the return node. Then create new outputs for the question audio, the reaction audio, the face and body index for both the NPC and the player, and an output for the state. Leave all of them as single values, not arrays. From the array pins, drag out and choose Get a Copy. Plug in the index from the input and connect the result to the return node. This way we get the audio and animations for the selected line. Compile and switch back to the event graph. Add the Get Question Pins function, drag in the current line index variable and connect it to the index pin. Next, call Close Widget. Drag in the NPC reference and call Play Player Audio from the interface. Then get the player character and call Set Anim Index. Connect the question audio pin to the sound cue and the question face index to the face index pin. Now we can choose one of our dialog lines and the player is finally talking. Do you have a quest for me? The final step for today is to set up the reaction of the NPC. Create another custom event and name it End Player Audio. Before we add anything to this event, open the NPC blueprint, select the Player Audio component, scroll down in the Details panel and add the On Audio Finished event. Then drag out and call the End Player Audio event from the dialog blueprint. Switch back to the dialog blueprint. When the player audio has finished, we call Auto Camera Switch. Next, call Get Question Pins and connect the current line index to the input pin. Now we set the actual state variable using the next state pin. If the state is 9, the dialog automatically ends after the NPC's reaction. Otherwise, we can choose another dialog line. Now bring in the NPC reference and call Play Dialog Audio from the interface, followed by Set Anim Index. Connect the reaction audio to the sound cue and connect the NPC face and body index pins to the face index and body index inputs. Finally, we need to move the Set Current Line Index node from the end of Close Widget to right after Open Widget. Otherwise, the NPC would answer with the same sentence for every question. Compile, save, and test it.
Hello, adventurer. What can I do for you?
How is the weather?
I don't know. Maybe it starts raining later.
How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
I have to leave now.
Okay, see you later.
And that's it for today. See you in the next part. Cheers!